Opening its doors in 1960, Sega still remains one of gaming's most recognizable brand names. Despite its stumbles in the late 90s console market, the mere fact that Sega is a company that is still relatively successful is mind-blowing and worth admiration. I would chalk this up to the fact that no company takes risks like Sega. Sure, Nintendo is an innovator in every sense of the word, and often they're the forerunners of the industry, but few companies have hit the highest of highs, the lowest of lows, and the creamiest of middles quite like Sega has. Except maybe Capcom. Regardless, Sega has consistently pumped out genre-defining mascots and icons over its 60-year tenure. From Cosmic Kiryu to the kids of Jet Set Radio and everything in between, iconography through innovation is Sega's brand at this point. With a reputation like that, one shining beacon was able to combine high-intensity gameplay with an attitude that just couldn't be beat. A series so ingrained in the DNA of gaming that no introduction is necessary. That's right, motherfucker, I'm talking about Dynamite Cop. Yeah, I guess Sonic too, but... Look, I really don't want to beat around the bush, so I'll just say it outright. I fucking hate Sonic. This isn't a subversive Sonic has never had a good game take. I just fundamentally don't understand Sonic. Does this mean I despise every Sonic game ever made? No, I actually really love the Adventure series because the Dreamcast is, was, and forever will be the future of gaming, and I'm contractually bound to shill anything that appeared on this blessed hardware, but instead I hate what Sonic means to modern Sega. Sonic was the thing that basically put Sega on the map in the West after their mild success with Alex Kidd on the Master System, and it feels like Sega has owed the Blue Blur one ever since. Sonic is that one asshole friend who gave you $20 to buy pizza, and even though you paid him back the next week, he still holds it over your head 8 years later so he can gain any form of leverage during a disagreement. Simply put, I am sick of Sonic. If we got a Sonic Mania like every 5 years or so, I'd welcome that little shit to my cookout like he didn't fuck my wife. But that isn't the case, and every 2 years or so, we watch Sega do the same dance every single time, where they squeeze out a new Sonic game, and it's a coin flip for every gaming magazine if this is going to be a timeless classic or this month's new whipping boy. You can imagine how alienating it feels being a huge Sega fan but actively hating their golden boy. But if you look past Sonic, there are so many interesting franchises hiding in Sega's backlog. One of the more intriguing titles of the bunch is actually brought to us by Sonic Team themselves back in the magical year of 1996. Born of a dream and a desire to capture the hype train that was mid-90s 3D technology, brought us Naoto Oshima's Nights into Dreams, which was a shot in the arm for the flailing Sega Saturn. Okay, I said shot in the arm, not savior. It really is hard to appreciate nowadays how much of a game changer Nights appeared to be at the time. Nights was a wholly original concept with a unique art style, a banger soundtrack, and a strange yet satisfying gameplay loop. So what happened to the series? Was it a franchise just too ahead of its time, or was it something too strange to survive? That's what we're here to find out. Take my hand as we fly off into the land of imagination, as we chase a dream that just could never be. This is Nights into Dreams.
In my dreams, I can hear you calling me in the night. Everything's so sweet in your eyes. I feel there's so much inside.
For those familiar with it, Nights into Dreams is either a failed experiment lost to time or a classic unappreciated on release and disrespected in the modern day. I am definitely a member of the former category, but that doesn't mean I didn't enjoy Nights. In fact, I quite liked my time with the game. All 3 hours of it. Yeah, I sat down to play this game drunk, just ready to record some test footage, and it turns out that I beat the game in one sitting, since this really isn't a long game. In fact, Knights feels like a tech demo, which it more or less was. For the time, Knights was a technical triumph, and even now it remains a visually pleasing experience. Models have this super charming 32-bit 3D aesthetic, everything is so colorful and the animations are fluid as hell. Presentation and charisma are definitely Knights' strong suits. Something about it is just so definitively 90s in the best way. It's bright, upbeat, and high energy at all times. In a lesser project, this could come off as obnoxious or overbearing, but Knights hits a nice balance between pure artistic genius and just disgustingly fun cheese. Knights feels like something I would have grown up with. I didn't, but just by playing it, I'm put back in that mindset of being 6 years old and approaching every game with this wild-eyed innocence and just being absorbed by the magic of it all. Allow me to just get down to it and ask, what is Knights? In simple terms, Knights is a platformer without the platforms. Well, actually no, it's more of a flying game where you collect spheres to blow up these cage thingies while on a time limit. So I guess you could say it's a racing game, almost like Outrun, but it's from the 2D profile perspective and not really 3D until you go into these hyper specific sections in the levels that shift perspective and... I said in my intro that Knights was wholly original, and that works both in its favor, but also maybe its greatest downfall. Without footage to show you, I don't really have the confidence in my abilities to accurately describe what Knights is. I remember when I was young, I always heard things like, oh man, Knights is so weird, they must have been on drugs when they made this. And yeah, the designs and general setup for this game are pretty out there, but the weirdest aspect of the whole package is found in the simple act of playing it. Knights is incredibly indicative of a pre-6th generation approach to game design. Some examples stand out when it comes to teaching your players how to play your game, the gold standard of which is Mega Man X and its intro stage. While this remains to this day, some people tend to forget how obtuse games could be up until the normalization of tutorials with the advent of the PS2, GameCube, and Xbox. Knights is no different. You boot it up, start a new file, watch the intro, and boom, you join the Air Force. Shit, not again! A major critique of modern games is that the over-tutorialization of players leads to the game being boring for the first few hours and diminishes the fun that people can have when running through on a replay. But if I'm being honest, I'd rather be given a belabored explanation and properly understand what I'm doing rather than fiddle around in the final level asking myself, what the fuck does the game want me to do here? Knights is just too much its own thing in some places. It hits this point of originality where it can be unrecognizable to most players because there's simply nothing like it. Like, you wanna know what game is like Knights into Dreams? Knights Journey of Dreams on the Wii, that's what. I think the best way to explain my issue here is by invoking something I like to call genre passing. When you play a game like Mario for the first time, you need to start up and get your bearings and understand exactly what's going on here, especially if this is your first experience with any video game. Now, imagine after playing Mario, I hand you Rayman Legends, a more complex game both visually and in some cases mechanically. Even though this game is now more complex, you still can take some of your prior knowledge from Mario and apply what you learned there to use it in Rayman. This is due to the fact that within genres you find common design tropes. The nature of tropes have been demonized in recent years as a sign of laziness, but simply having a design trope in your game is not inherently a bad thing. It's when your game is nothing but tropes and offers nothing original to the player, that's when you got a problem. Knights is an example of a game that avoids tropes like the plague since it doesn't really have a definable genre. Yeah, I guess it has the normal 2D platformer convention of moving left to right, but you can turn around at any time and go backwards through the stage since each mare, as the game calls them, is a circular track that loops. A lot of this game is figuring out the mechanics and figuring out how certain things interact with other certain things, and for the 3 triple S rank hardcore Knight style players out there, look, I'm really sorry, but I fucking suck dick at this game. Like, I'm so fucking ass that I think half my overall playtime is me going back to do the first 2 dreams of each kid's campaign because I didn't hit the bare minimum requirement to unlock the last 2 levels. I wouldn't say I dislike how Knights plays, but I'm definitely not the biggest fan of it. It feels as though something in it just isn't clicking with me. Like, I'm missing something here. I don't want to come out right and say this game plays like ass and I don't like how it's designed without having a firm understanding of all of its mechanics, because I know I'm gonna get some fucking night speedrunner who's like, oh, you don't know how to QXO humping your zippy? Huh. Fucking casual. So I went directly to the source and reached out to the second place record holder for the all levels category, Shentok, on Twitter, and I asked him if he could share some insight with me, and this is what he had to say.
If you're not a speedrunner, I would say the main appeal is score attacking. You get a ×2 multiplier after you get an idea from the Nightmare in Cage, and while you have it, you get double the points. The idea is to lap around the loop as much as you can before turning it in, making links, and multiplying your score. There's a lot of little secrets and Easter eggs in each stage to uncover. I would recommend getting used to using the drill attacks to maximize your speed. If you keep an eye on certain patterns of chip and star placements, you can do paraloops to uncover hidden emblems for points or refilling your drill attack gauge. If you're playing the HD version, I highly recommend giving the Saturn original a try with analog control. The HD version changed a lot of things that made it less fun for me personally. The main difference is that the movement is a lot stiffer in the HD version, giving a less fluid motion feel. There is also subtle and not so subtle differences in physics that add up to a lesser experience in my opinion. The game really is an arcade experience, so I think a lot of people go in these days not expecting that and are thrown off by it. You just gotta keep playing and be willing to experiment and explore.
When I read the HD version is a lot stiffer, everything made sense to me and I realized how much of a dumb fuck I am. Due to the fact that I am not made out of money and was not born before 1991, I do not have a Sega Saturn in my collection, and I doubt the vast majority of people do. So consider any and all complaints I have about the gameplay to be exclusive to the HD version and from the perspective of a layman. I greatly appreciate Shentok for taking the time out to answer my questions, since they made it clear to me that there is just that little bit more to this game than I first anticipated. But if I'm being real with you, gameplay in and of itself is kind of irrelevant in this discussion, mostly because I never really cared about what Knights is, and I care more so about what Knights represents in the grand scheme of Sega. When I started this video off, I sang the praises of Sega for being so daring and willing to really go there, and I feel like Knights was the first time the West really got to experience that. Sure, there were earlier titles like Alex Kidd and the sort, but those all followed the zeitgeist of the times and expanded upon them from there. Meanwhile, Knights was the Sega Saturn title to own for a little bit alongside Panzer Dragoon. Something as out there as Knights, more or less headlining Sega's first foray into the third dimension, is a bold statement of intent. The Saturn is a notorious system for being the only mainline Sega console to not have an original Sonic title at the helm. The most you can say is Sonic R, or if you really want to split hairs, the 3D portions of Sonic Jam. Sure, the Saturn had a near catastrophic failure in the West, but in Japan they were down to clown with this bad boy. So many great titles got their definitive editions on the Saturn, and some Japanese exclusives like Sakura Wars are still held in high regard by those who are able to play them. Knights, and by extension a good chunk of Sega's catalog, appeals to a niche group in such a specific way that the only way they are going to experience something like it is to go directly to the source. Drawing from my conversation with Shentok, they more or less nailed it on the head by saying,
Sega in the 80s, 90s, and even today always had this unique style for their games that weren't their flagship mainstays, and there was nothing else like it.
There's nothing else like it. That's quite a powerful statement, and not one made lightly. I vaguely described it in a negative way earlier, but Knights is a game I can only describe as unique. While not vibing with everything thrown into it, I did appreciate all the work that went into making this experience what it was. Knights is Knights. It's daring, original, and while it doesn't work all the time, for the people who do fuck with it, there is no other place they can go to get that experience. That's something emblematic of Sega. While Sonic still holds a death grip on their brand, you can't deny that some stellar franchises have stepped up to give Sonic a run for his money. Best example as of late is the explosion in popularity for the Yakuza games. A franchise previously considered to be the nichest of niche is now a flagship series in the West because of how original these games can be. Not to even mention the franchises Sega has come to publish in recent years like Persona and the Total War series. We now stand on the precipice of what may be one of the great eras of gaming creativity, since Sega is hitting a brand new stride like I mentioned, but that doesn't mean they're the only game in town. Yuji Naka has teamed up with Square Enix to drop the brand new experience Balan Wonderworld, which at the time of writing is set to release on March 26, 2021, but with the pandemic and all, who knows. But what we do know is that Balan Wonderworld reeks of Nights, and honestly, I'm here for it. I want to see what Naka and the crew have cooked up this time around. Even if we drop the pretense of something having be relative to Nights, we have the future release of Bomb Rush Cyberpunk to look forward to scratch that itch left by Jet Set Radio Future almost 20 years ago. And if we look beyond the realms of anything Sega adjacent, we are on the cusp of a new console generation. I'm recording this video only a few days before the release of the PS5, and while I'm not gonna buy it on release, I'm excited nonetheless. But like I said, this is all in the future, and for now we have Nights, something that stands in spite of itself as a gold standard for throwing it all at the wall and seeing what stuck, and frankly, I appreciate the hell out of it. There's another universe where Nights caught fire and the face of gaming may be completely different and everything we have is the most buck wild imaginative shit you've ever seen, but that's not the reality we live in. We live in the reality where there is a game made for the Sega Saturn that some people played, some people didn't, some people heard of, and some people have no clue about it. But regardless, that game is beautiful. That game is Nights into Dreams. And for some people, what Nights truly is something that would only be captured in a dream. Hey everybody, we're approaching the end of the year, and I just want to say thank you so much to everyone who's subscribed and helped the channel grow over these last 11 months. It really means the world to me that so many people, even if it seems like a relatively small number to some, actually gave enough of a shit to stick around and watch as Pat and I grow and kind of fill in our shoes a little bit more as we get better and better at doing this whole video making thing. And while I'm also here, I wanted to give a massive thank you to Shentok for helping me out with my research, and Svit for lending his voice to Shentok's words. The help is really appreciated, and I just cannot say thank you enough. Finally, I just wanted to say, I hope you all have a great holiday season. I know it's a bit rough, especially with the year that we've had, but I hope you all get some rest. So with that, my name is Michael, and let's talk again soon.